నమస్కారం. డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ సార్వత్రిక విశ్వవిద్యాలయం విద్యార్థులకు స్వాగతం. ఈ ప్రసారంలో
We discuss today about the topic which is very important for any geology student, and that topic is geological time scale. The geological time scale is very crucial either for any BSc student or for any MSc student or for any research student. The geological time scale is mainly based on the geological time since the formation of Earth about 4,600 million years back. Since the formation of Earth, lot of geological events have been happening, and to arrange all these geological events like volcanic activity, igneous activity, marine transgressions, regressions, the genesis of new species, extinction of species, etc. To arrange all these geological events in a systematic way that have happened throughout the world, a standard geological time scale has been framed throughout the world following a uniform nomenclature. Say, for the sake of our understanding, we can say that we are dividing the calendar year into 12 months, and each month into fortnights, and fortnight into weeks, and week into days, and days into hours, like that. In the similar way, the entire geological span from the formation of Earth till now has been broadly divided into two eons, E-O-N, eons, and those eons are, the first one is Cryptozoic eon and the second one is Phanerozoic eon. The Cryptozoic eon is extended for a period of 3,900 years, whereas the Phanerozoic eon is spread over a period of 700 million years, and each eon is divided into different eras, and altogether the eras are 6 in number, and each era is divided into different periods, and period into different epochs, and epochs into different ages, and different ages into different phases. Like this, the entire geological time or the time unit is divided into eras, periods, epochs, ages, and phases. And these eras are, the first one is the Ajoic one. During Ajoic, or which is otherwise called as Archean, there was no life at all, only igneous rocks were formed, and a few quantity of sedimentary rocks were also formed. Then the second group was Proterozoic group, and during this Proterozoic group, which is otherwise called as Precambrian group, there was the record of life. The primitive life initiated during this Proterozoic or Precambrian period, but the primitive life was not recorded as fossils. Then followed by the four groups, the primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. All these eras starting from primary to tertiary and quaternary, they have the record of lot of fossils starting from the invertebrates to vertebrates. All the fossils were recorded from the era Paleozoic or the primary era. During this Paleozoic period, there was lot of record of fossils. Then the Paleozoic is followed by the secondary or the Mesozoic period. During the Mesozoic period, middle life fossils were recorded, whereas during the Proterozoic period, the fossils which were not at all recorded, but during the Paleozoic, ancient life was recorded. During the secondary one or the Mesozoic era, there was the record of middle life or middle developed species were recorded as fossils. Then the Mesozoic was followed by the tertiaries. Tertiary was also called as Cenozoic or Cainozoic. During Cenozoic or Cainozoic era, the recent fossils were recorded. All the recent species were recorded as fossils during the Cenozoic or Cainozoic or Tertiary era, and the last one was the Quaternary. The Quaternary is called as Psychozoic era. The Psychozoic era was named aptly because of all the species, all the animal species have the analytical ability, the thinking ability. The species has acquired the analytical or the thinking ability, hence it is called as Psychozoic period. Then when we come to the happenings that took place during the geological period, the different geological periods were called with different names. See, this is the Cambrian period. The Cambrian period was known as age of trilobites. Lot of trilobite species were recorded as fossils during this Cambrian period, hence it is called as age of trilobites. Then followed by Ordovician period. During Ordovician period, lot of graptolites have been survived as fossils, hence it is called as age of graptolites. Then during the Devonian period, fish species, there were the records of lot of fish species as fossils, hence the Devonian period is called as age of fishes. As we have been exposed many a times during the geological times, Mesozoic period or the secondary era or the Mesozoic era was known as age of reptiles and age of ammonites. It is known as age of reptiles and age of ammonites. Lot of ammonite species were recorded as fossils during the Mesozoic times. It has been spread throughout Triassic, Jurassic and Cretaceous periods, and hence the entire age or era is called as age of reptiles or age of ammonites. During the Cenozoic era or the Tertiary period, during the Cenozoic era or the tertiary period, there was the inception or the origin of mammals. Hence, this age is called as age of mammals. A lot of mammal species were recorded during the Tertiary period. And the last one, Quaternary. During the Quaternary period, the beginning of Homo sapien or the origin of man was recorded during the Pleistocene period. Hence, the Quaternary period is known familiarly as age of man. This is how the entire geological periods were classified with different ages. In the similar way, what the fossils have been spread throughout the geological time, geological happenings were also recorded during the entire geological time scale, and the large scale happenings were during the Archeans and Ezoics. There were the records of igneous and sedimentary rocks only. Igneous and sedimentary rocks were recorded during these periods. When we come to the end of Paleozoic era, the mountains, important mountains like Appalachians and Urals, the Appalachian mountains of America and the Urals of erstwhile USSR have been formed during this period. Then during the Mesozoic era, the important Rocky Mountains and Andes were formed. Then during the Tertiary period, lot of Alps mountains and the greatest Himalayan mountains of Indian subcontinent were raised during this tertiary period, and during the quaternary period lot of glaciation activity has been occurred. This is how different geological features have spread over the entire geological time. Then when we think of the different evolution of plants and animals during the Azoic era, as we discussed already, there was no life present, and in the same way during the period continuation, organisms which were probably very simple and unicellular were survived, but there was no record of any fossil for this period. And during the Proterozoic period, blue, green algae and some bacteria species were known to be survived. Then when we come to the Paleozoic era, during the Cambrian period, the origin of algae, especially marine forms, were recorded. During the Ordovician period, dominance of marine and green algae was recorded, and during the Silurian period, origin of land plants, then dominance of algae, mostly calcareous algae, was recorded. During Devonian period, lycopods, horsetails, ferns, seed ferns, first forests, algal members in plenty have been survived and recorded as fossils. During the Paleozoic period, during the Paleozoic era and Carboniferous periods, which was divided into Mississippian and Pennsylvanian, dominance of lycopods, horsetails, seed ferns, extensive coal formations in swampy forests were recorded. During the Carboniferous, this is the period where we are getting lot of coal deposits in our Indian context also, in the Indian subcontinent also. We are getting in Andhra Pradesh and Bihar lot of coal reserves from these ages, Carboniferous ages. Then at the end of Paleozoic era, that is during the Permian period, first cycads and conifers were survived, and they have their fossil resemblances also. During the Mesozoic times, that is during the Triassic period, cycads were spread at the most, and conifers and disappearance of seed ferns. The seed ferns were completely disappeared at the end of Triassic period. Then during the Jurassic period, which was around 180 million years, conifers were dominant and along with cycads, and first angiosperms were also recorded during this time. Then at the end of Mesozoics, that is during the Cretaceous period, rapid development of angiosperms were recorded. Then followed by the Cenozoic or the tertiary one, development and spread of flowering plants. This is the period where the significant flowering plants were recorded, and rise of grasses, rise of herbs were also recorded. At the end of the geological time, that is during the Quaternary period, the dominance of herbaceous plants and all the present day plants what we are looking in are present during this end of Quaternary period. This is how the plant species have spread over the geological span. In the same way, when we think of the invertebrate presence and the vertebrate presence, dominantly during the Archaeozoic or the Azoic period, there was indirect evidence of life from graphite and limestone, but no recognized fossils. Then few fossils, sponges, protozoa, radiolaria, and most invertebrate phyla probably evolved during this Proterozoic period. Then during the Paleozoics, many invertebrate groups, trilobites and brachiopods were survived during Cambrian, and during Ordovician, trilobites were at their peak. Cephalopods, brachiopods, bryozoans, corals and starfishes were recognized. During Silurian period, corals, brachiopods and first land invertebrates, then scorpions and spiders were also recognized. During Devonian period, brachiopods flourish and decline of trilobites have initiated. During the Carboniferous period, lot of crinoids were culminated and first insect fossils were also recorded. At the end of Paleozoic, trilobites, expansion of ammonites, loss of trilobites, trilobite species were completely extincted and ammonites were expanded at the end of Paleozoic era. Then when we think of Mesozoic times or the Triassic period, the decline of marine invertebrate was initiated. Following, ammonites in larger numbers and insects were dominated. At the end of Mesozoics, that means during the Cretaceous times, all the ammonite species were extincted and the spread of insects has happened. Right. At the end of the Cenozoic or the Tertiary period, arthropods, molluscans were abundant and appearance of modern invertebrate types have taken place during the Cenozoic, Cainozoic and the Psychozoic eras of the geological times. Then and lastly, when we think of the presence of vertebrates during the Paleozoics starting from Ordovician period, first vertebrates armored fishes were recognized. During the Silurian times, rise of ostracoderms, these are called as primitive fishes. The primitive fishes which were named as ostracoderms were recorded during the Silurian period, and during the Devonian first amphibians have been identified and rise of fishes was also started. Then during the Carboniferous period, spread of sharks, rise of amphibians and the primitive type of reptiles were identified. At the end of Paleozoics, the invertebrate importance was expansion of reptiles. Reptiles have been expanded during the Paleozoic period, and during the Mesozoic era, that is during the Triassic, first dinosaurs and mammal like reptiles, reptiles which have similarities with mammals have been identified. And during Jurassic, dominance of dinosaurs and first birds were started during the Jurassic period. That means during 180 million years in the geological time scale, the first birds were appeared and the early mammals as well. Then during Cretaceous period, the dinosaurs were completely extincted and the birds were spread and rise of primitive mammals. Primitive mammals were initiated at the end of Mesozoic, that means during the Cretaceous period. Then during the Tertiary period, first men. During the Pleistocene period, the presence of first man is identified during this period. Extension of archaic mammals, rise of anthropoids and spread of modern mammals has taken place. And during the Quaternary period, man has dominated above all the animals, and this is how the entire geological time has been spread with some different geological plants, invertebrate animals and vertebrate animals. This is the classification of geological time. As we classified the geological time, in the same way the stratigraphic formations, the different stratigraphic formations are said to be homotaxial when they are having the similar age and spread over the different parts of the world. See, to establish the homotaxial relations, to make a correlation between the time unit and the stratigraphic unit, the entire geological time scale has been established. In the study of geological time scale, there is a very importance to make a correlation study. Correlation study of the geological formations that are spread over the entire world, maybe it is in the Indian subcontinent or European continent or African continent, we have to make a correlation study. The correlation study is establishment of mutual relations amongst the different formations of similar age, and this can be explained by establishing the homotaxial relations. And this is how the homotaxial relation establishment can be made. We make a correlation with the time unit with that of the stratigraphic unit, as we discussed already, that the entire time has been divided into eons, eras, periods, epochs, age and phases. In the same way, the stratigraphic forms or the stratigraphic unit is also divided into different types, and they are the entire stratigraphic unit since the formation of Earth up to recent, in accordance with the time unit, is divided into different erathem, ERATHEM, different erathems, and each erathem into different groups, and each group into different systems. Sometimes at some places erathem is used as a synonym to group, or otherwise we can call it as widely accepted term erathem. The erathem into different systems, and different systems into different series, and each series into different stages, and each stage into different zones. This is how the stratigraphic unit is divided into erathem, system, series, stages and zones. We have to make a exemplary study with coincidence with that of the time unit and the stratigraphic unit. For each stratigraphic unit, say for example, the erathem, we have the example of SEMRI group. In Indian geology, we come across the system SEMRI group. The SEMRI group can be make correlation with that of erathem. Then for system, the example is Vindhyan system. The Vindhyan system we are studying can be an example to the system unit of the stratigraphic unit. In the same way, the Rohtas series can be made correlation with that of series, and for stage, Suket shales. Suket shales is an example to the stages, and Obotella's shale bed can be make an example to the zone of stratigraphic unit. This is how the entire stratigraphic unit have been classified. In the same way, the time unit also. Say for example, era or period. For era, we can say an example to Cenozoic era, and for the period, Tertiary period, and for the epoch, Miocene epoch, and for the age is Panorian age, and for the phase, it is global area phase. This is how we can make different examples for a time unit and for the stratigraphic unit. In the entire geological time scale, the essence what we have to understand is the geological classification of time unit in accordance with or in correlation with that of the stratigraphic unit, and this correlative study or mutual relation will help us a lot in knowing about the different geological events that have taken place throughout the geological time, as or simply or precisely to understand the geological events have been taking place since the formation of the earth till recent. The in-between period or the interval period between two geological events can be said as different eras. Geologists pretty understood that the classification of era is simply an interval between two happenings or two large scale geological event happening can be classified into a simple era. This is how different eras have been classified. That means the successive eras, when there was the existence of time interval, it has been decided like the classification geological time scale has been framed like this, and this is the importance of geological time scale.
పాఠ్యాంశాలపై మీ సూచనలు, సలహాలు, సందేహాలు మాకు తెలియచేయండి. మీ సూచనలు, సలహాలు, సందేహాలు మాకు తెలియజేయవలసిన చిరునామా: డైరెక్టర్, ఆడియో విజువల్ ప్రొడక్షన్ అండ్ రీసెర్చ్ సెంటర్, డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ ఓపెన్ యూనివర్సిటీ, ప్రొఫెసర్ జి రామరెడ్డి మార్గ్, రోడ్ నంబర్ 46, జూబ్లీ హిల్స్, హైదరాబాద్ 500033.